Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
Welcome to a special mini-sode. We did one of these last year in one of our regular episodes where we took a look at Best Picture winners that we thought maybe should not have won and replaced them with the ones that we enjoyed more. And this year we're going to look at the directors. So for each of these we've picked a director that we think should have won, and we will tell you the one that did win instead that we thought was perhaps a lesser directing film. Justin, let's start with you. And here 5 through 2 on your list.
Okay. Well, if you gentlemen will permit me, I'd like to kick mine off with an honorable mention from the 83rd Academy Awards. Tom Hooper won for Best Director of The King's Speech, but I am a firm believer that Darren Aronofsky is incredibly overdue for a Best Director award, and I think Black Swan would have been definitely a good one to do it. But to kick my list off, number 5, from the 64th Academy Awards, Jonathan Demme won for Silence of the Lambs. This should have been Ridley Scott's year for Thelma and Louise. I think it's a much more ambitious film. Obviously, you can't go wrong with Sir Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal Lecter, but I think it has a lot more going on, and I think it gets much better on repeat viewings.
I'm interested to hear the rest of this list. Wow,
that's strong.
That's Justin's list, but I can't go with that. But let's hear number 4.
My number 4 is from the 75th Academy Awards, which Roman Polanski took home for The Pianist. But I think I'm sure Joe will probably agree with me. Martin Scorsese went way out of left field doing a period piece about gangs in New York, and I think it should have been his one to take it home. Number 3 is from the 65th Academy Awards. This was the year that Clint Eastwood won for Unforgiven, a movie I think is painfully overrated. And the director I think who should have taken it in his place, Martin Brest, Scent of a Woman. One of the few times we had a...
Trying to make me happy today.
Yeah, what is going on? Well, he kicked out Silence of the Lambs, though.
Yeah, it balances
That doesn't make you too happy.
That was a little weird, yeah.
One of the few times a foreign film was remade in America and actually worked, and honestly, it's one of my favorite movies ever, so got to give credit where credit's rightfully due. And my number 2 will be no stranger to my co-hosts or anyone who's listened to the show ever. The 82nd Academy Awards, in which Catherine Bigelow won for The Hurt Locker. Personally, I think she should have won for the second year for Zero Dark 30.
Wasn't nominated, though.
Sadly. But director I think who should have...
Wait, but that was the year Black Swan you thought should have won. She can't win for every year. If you said it was the... No, it wasn't the very next year, I don't think.
2 years later.
I think maybe 2 years later.
And I think Jason Reitman for Up in the Air did a far more ambitious job.
All right. Well, I don't have any honorable mentions because 2 of my people on the list actually have 2 people that could have won over the person that won. I pick one and then I pick, hey, this person also could have won and I would have been happy.
Spread the love.
Yeah. A couple of mine are repeats, but interestingly enough, Justin, with different films that I think should have won. Now, I have not seen as many of the 90s classic Academy films, certainly as you, Justin, maybe you as well, Joe. So, for my list, I obviously had to kick off things that I had seen and could tell you, okay, well, this was better than this. I've never seen Unforgiven, but... can't imagine it's one of my favorites.
It's a Western.
I mean, it is a Western, so it's one straight against it for you.
But my number 5 is actually Roman Polanski for The Pianist. You can go ahead and kick him out. My person, though, that I think should have won was Rob Marshall for Chicago.
Also
fantastic film. No, I've never seen Gangs in New York, so maybe if I'd seen that, Scorsese could get it as well.
It's a Scorsese movie with Leo. You'd probably like it.
I probably would, although he did win for a Leo film in The Departed a couple years later.
It's true.
So, but I thought Chicago was just outstanding. And, in the old days of the Academy, they used to give it to the musical people all the time because it is very hard to really do that. Yeah. Number 4 on my list is the only 90s representation. It should be said, I guess, we only are focusing on the last 25 years. We didn't mention that. So 1990 and up. And for me, 1994, Robert Zemeckis, great guy, Forrest Gump. I'm just not a fan. It's okay. But Quentin Tarantino, Pulp Fiction, that would be my choice. Absolutely.
I'm surprised you wouldn't say Quiz Show.
Well, that's another one that I do love. Quiz Show is a great movie. Directing-wise, though, Gump is probably the more ambitious piece.
Fair enough.
So I'll go with him over Quiz Show, but Tarantino, maybe not. Number 3 for me, 2007, the Coen Brothers one for No Country for Old Men, a film I think is quite overrated. I'm not going to say Jason Reitman should have won for Juno. I do love that movie, but for me the choice is Julian Schnabel, The Diving Bell, and The Butterfly.
I love it, but it probably had no chance.
I'm not saying it had a chance. It was nominated, and therefore it qualifies for this list.
That's fair.
Yeah, one other caveat we should point out is all of these people we're replacing were fellow nominees that lost, not just people
Random
that we
movies.
liked. No, you're right. He had no shot at winning this. But I thought he did an incredible job with this movie.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We've talked about that on the show a few times, one of my favorite foreign films. In 2010, I also kick out Hooper for The King's Speech. I do think Aronofsky should have probably won the most for Black Swan. But David Fincher, Social Network, also would have been a very, very solid choice.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, Joe, how about the first of your list?
Well, the first 4, really.
The first 4 of your list, I should say.
Well, from the 2010 Academy Awards, unsurprisingly, Darren Aronofsky should have won for Black Swan, even though I do love Tom Hooper for King's Speech.
Yeah, King's Speech was good. I just think Black Swan was certainly more daring.
Direction-wise, there's just a lot more going on.
Yeah.
Now,
Less close-ups.
I like a good close-up. Now, from 2007, over No Country for Old Men as well, but with a different direction, Paul Thomas Anderson, There Will Be Blood. I think
Very good choice.
It's an excellent movie. I really liked a lot. Great direction there. Now, Justin, my Ridley Scott nominations from a different period, but over 2000's Traffic, got to give it to Ridley for Gladiator.
See, I was thinking about that, but I still haven't seen Traffic, so I didn't think that would be fair.
Okay.
I think Traffic's
good call.
Traffic's a good movie, but I personally think Gladiator is like one of those like masterpieces personally. So I like that one for Ridley. One of those movies he did 15 years ago. He did Martian though, and this will make
didn't get a director nomination for it.
And everyone's still mad about it.
well.
Yeah, it was on my top 5.
And unsurprisingly, you'll be happy about this, Dan. But as you guys know, I think Forrest Gump is good, but it's a little.
Let's calm down with it.
If you're talking about like radical, challenging direction, I mean, '94 Quentin Tarantino for Pulp Fiction. That's like a gimme, one of the big upsets for me, but not my number one.
Okay, well, Justin, what's your number 1?
74th Academy Awards, Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, over Ron Howard winning for A Beautiful Mind. Don't get me wrong, Beautiful Mind is a great movie.
Fellowship's my favorite, and I think that you could easily put it over Beautiful Mind, but I've always considered that Return of the King for all of Lord of the Rings, basically. So
Yeah, they did give him an Oscar for the 3rd film.
So I always kind of thought that was kind of them backtracking. Everyone kind of always sort of assessed that.
For me, it was like, okay, Chicago, big musical, Academy loves those. We get it. Beautiful Mind is a great movie. I'm not ever going to contest that. Is the wonderful masterpiece everyone made it out to be way back when. I don't personally think so. Is it great? Yes, but I'll be honest. Ron Howard's done better things to warrant a Best Director Oscar award.
All right. Well, my number 1 is to kick Catherine Bigelow out for The Hurt Locker. Wow. I do like this movie more than Justin, I think.
What'd you give it?
It's an A. I mean, it's a great movie. But directing-wise, believe it or not, now I do love Jason Reitman. Again, here, could have won for Juno, could have won for Up in the Air. I agree. Up in the Air is an A+ movie for me. The movie that I think probably should have won Best Director that year is James Cameron for Avatar. Ooh. The movie sucks. The story sucks. But I can't deny that his directing was phenomenal. The 3D was great. I mean, come on. They've given it in many recent years to a lot of the 3D epics of the day. Life of Pi for Ang Lee. Gravity for Cuarón.
It's true.
I think you could give it to Avatar. It's great that Catherine Bigelow is the only, so far, female director to win the Oscar. But guess what? If you want to give it to a groundbreaking person, give it to Lee Daniels for Precious. First black director to win. I thought Precious was better directed than Hurt Locker as well. So
I would agree.
There's a few good choices to kick her out for. God bless her. Joe?
This one was kind of a no-brainer for me.
English Patient?
There we go.
Because I've never seen it, so I couldn't kick it out, unfortunately.
You're the only one who has it.
Yeah, you've seen it.
I have, but I'm Fargo's great, but I don't know. I decided I had to put that as like an honorable mention. This one upset me more. 1992. I've always found Unforgiven to be a very overrated movie, versus one of my favorite movies, Martin Brest for Son of a Woman. Just some fantastic direction for
you love it
between Pacino and Chris O'Donnell. Just like that.
What's not to love?
That interplay is just some of the best. That deserved best direction. Definitely.
I mean, the problem with Unforgiven is literally the central storyline ends like halfway into the movie.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's cut well, but I think it's just one of those kind of set pieces for Clint Eastwood to just like, hey, I know westerns, let me just be myself,
Yeah.
And I was thinking for Eastwood, he's done better stuff.
Oh my gosh!
So
yes.
I don't know, I never got behind Unforgiven for really much.
I mean, it's a good movie. It's not it's sort of in that same Beautiful Mind camp where like everyone talks about how like glorious it is. It's good. It's not amazing.
That's kind of how I feel about it.
Very interesting. I really don't ever want to watch it. I don't think I would like it.
I mean, the best part is the end when Clint Eastwood's like, "I'm going to kill everybody," and you're like, "Oh, that's cool."
It's usually what he does.
And like, "Oh, but we waited like 2.5 hours for this."
Yeah, and we all kind of saw this coming, Clint. Come on.
I was just like,
Well, it's the whole best director thing is very interesting because, like, obviously I love David O. Russell, but when you look at the movies that won those years, like Life of Pi is very well directed, and so is Gravity. So as much as I would love for him to get it for Silver Linings Playbook or whatever, and I love Up in the Air. Jason Reitman is a great director. Justin,
Save Labor Day, but yes,
there were a couple instances.
Everybody stumbles.
There were a couple instances looking through this where I don't like Gravity that much. But when I compared it to everything else, the direction was really good.
So I feel about Avatar. It's like, I love Hurt Locker much more than Avatar as a movie, but directing-wise, Avatar's pretty solid.
I mean, he structured an entire language. It's ambitious.
Yeah, like he structured an entire language. He made cameras to record it. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
The presentation's pretty good.
Yeah.
Definitely. Though I thought your list was very interestingly structured, Dan. I was trying to think of ones that like had a realistic chance of winning. Obviously, David Lynch was on the short list.
I considered it, but once again, I was thinking they nominated him because it's David Lynch and it was very well directed, but since no one actually watches the movie outside of David Lynch fans, it's not going to win. You know what I mean? So,
but I mean,
I understood.
Mulholland Drive was critically well received.
Did he get nominated for that?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah. It was critically well received, but it's one of those things where it wouldn't have been as well watched as some of the other movies that were big hits that everyone knew about, which is generally the Oscar leans that.
So yeah, I mean, they only pick 5, and usually it's really only about 2 or 3 that have a shot at it. And you can join our Facebook group at Film Fanatics with an exclamation point and check out our 5-word reviews there weekly, in addition to links to all of our episodes. And you can subscribe to our channel here on YouTube and, of course, the Twitter feed